Good evening, Purple family. Welcome to another episode of Shades of Purple, a Prince podcast. Tonight I will be discussing and analyzing Prince's 5 number 1 singles, as well as reviewing Prince's second album, the self-titled Prince. So to start off, the reason why I chose to review Prince's second album and include his 5 number 1 hit singles is because after the For You album, the sales proved to be lackluster, to say the least. It only sold about 200,000 copies. So Prince was disappointed in that, especially given all the studio time and money he put into the album. Like I said in the earlier episode, he spent about 90% of his $180,000 advance on creating For You. So he spent some $170,000 on it. He would later say that he never went back to listen to his first album much because it was too perfect. He said that it was flawless. Critics also said that it sounded overproduced, and given that Prince was such a new producer at the time, that's definitely possible. So going into his second album, Prince really wanted to make hits to prove both to himself and to Warner Brothers that he could make hit records. So my thinking was, how about not only do I review Prince's second album, but I could also discuss Prince's 5 number 1 songs that reached the top spot of the Billboard charts. So let's get right into it. Now, a lot of people don't know that Prince's most well-known song, and probably the song that is considered to be his signature song, Purple Rain, only peaked at number 2 at the time of its release in September 1984. Let me say this about the song Purple Rain before I get into discussing the singles and the Prince album. I know a lot of Purple family really don't care for the song Purple Rain because they see it as being too commercial, and it's a song that Prince will forever be known for outside of the Purple community. And that seems to bother a lot of Purple family members. And while I understand why, because obviously Prince was much more than Purple Rain, the song, the album, and the movie, but ultimately that is what people remember him for. And does that bother me personally? Yes and no. Yes, because at some point it always irritates me when people find out that I'm a Prince fan, and the first thing they want to do is bring up Purple Rain. And I'm thinking, yeah, Purple Rain was great, but Prince had better, greater hits than Purple Rain, and we all know that. I also know that it irritated me. If it irritated me, it had to have bothered Prince at some point. But I think toward the end of his life, and maybe even before then, he was able to reconcile the fact that outside of his fan base, he would always be the Purple Rain guy. And I say no because Purple Rain is a beautiful, wonderful song. I just recently got to the point, like I would say like in the last 6 months or so, where I can listen to the song without crying. I also say no because Prince also knew how powerful the song was, because he would perform it at nearly every concert he ever did after its release. And it was the last song he played at his last concert, the Piano on the Microphone tour. So Prince knew how influential the song was, and I think he was able to make his peace with that at some point. But anyway, I don't want to get off on a tangent on that. I'll talk more about Purple Rain, the album, the movie, and the song, starting off in the beginning of season 2. So stay tuned for that. So, but getting back on topic. So Prince's first song to reach number 1 on the Billboard pop charts was the first single off of Prince's 6th studio album, Purple Rain, the one we just got through talking about, called When Doves Cry. Now, I know a lot of older Prince fans can remember where they were when they first heard this song, but me, I was approximately 6 months old when this song came out. So I have no memory of when it was first released, and I can't really recall when I first heard it. I think most likely I saw the music video on either MTV or BET sometime in the 90s probably. Back when BET and MTV was actually showing music videos. So I have to admit though, the song, it had to grow on me at first, but now I can listen to that famous opening guitar riff over and over and over again. Matter of fact, when I get in the mood to listen to When Doves Cry, I just can go back and forth just listening to that guitar riff over and over. I love it. So the song was actually the last song added to the Purple Rain album. The director of Purple Rain, Albert Magnoli, wanted one more song for the movie to go with a transitional scene that dealt with the combination of parental problems and a love affair. So the very next day, Prince presented Magnoli with 2 songs, one being When Doves Cry. The inspiration for the song was allegedly based on Prince's relationship with Vanity Six Apollonia Six member Susan Moosey, who Prince had been dating off and on both before and during this time period, according to author Pierre Nelson in his book Dance, Music, Sex, Romance, Prince, the First Decade. That is a wonderful book of resources about Prince. And it's also another book that I plan on doing a book review. At some point, I don't know if it'll be in season 2, maybe season 3, possibly. I want to do a whole bunch of book reviews because I've read, over the course of 2 years, I have read so many books about Prince. It's ridiculous. So I would like to get to reviewing those books at some point. But going on, so the basic tracking took place, and I'm getting this information from thePrinceVault.com. The basic tracking took place on the 1st of March, 1984 at Sunset Sound in Hollywood, California, some days after a song called Traffic Jam and 2 days after Love and Sex. Okay, so Love and Sex. Was that on Crystal Ball, I think? Okay, anyway. Or was it a B-side on Purple Rain? I can't remember. As the final track recorded for Purple Rain, which I already said. Of note is that both these tracks, Ascending Sis String Ending and the extended part as it was played on the Purple Rain tour, are both quite reminiscent of Traffic Jam. So I think Traffic Jam is an unreleased tune. I haven't heard that one, but it was recorded the same day as When Doves Cry. So at some point, I'll have to try to look it up on YouTube or something. It was included as the 5th song on the 25th of March 1984 configuration of the album before Take Me With You was added for the final configuration compiled on the 14th of April 1984. So the other track offered for consideration to Magnoli was the song God, the instrumental, which would go on to be the B-side for the song Purple Rain. One of the most unique features of the song When Doves Cry is that it does not have a bass line. Now, it originally recorded one, but Prince decided to take it out. Well, not exactly. He didn't exactly take it out. He just muted it in the final mix. So his reasoning for that, he explained in a 1999 interview with Bass Player magazine. He said he made the last minute change because the track was just sounding too conventional, like every other song with drums and bass and keyboards. So while listening to a rough mix with singer Jill Jones and probably his on and off girlfriend of his as well, backup singer but on and off girlfriend Jill Jones, he floated his daring idea. I said, if I could have it my way, it would sound like this. And I pulled the bass out of the mix. She said, why don't you have it your way? Why not indeed? And so according to Rolling Stone, once again, Prince made the decision. He promised Rogers it would have a big impact, which is Susan Rogers, his engineer. Nobody would have the balls to do this. You just wait. They'll be freaking. That's what he told Susan Rogers, his engineer. And freak they did. Mary Lou Bardot, I think that's how you say her name. It's a French name, I think. Warner Brothers Music. She was a Warner Brothers Music executive at the time. And everyone thought, okay, what the F are we going to do with this? So the executives, really didn't care for When Doves Cry because of the bass line being missing. They were just like, radio won't take this. But to his credit, Prince really stood up for the track. And he got his manager at the time, a man named Steve Fagnoli, to back him up to the record exec. So eventually they gave in and accepted the song minus the bass line. And just as Prince predicted, it was a massive hit, hitting the #1 spot on the Billboard Hot 100 on July 7th, 1984. Critical response to the song was very positive, just as it was for the whole album. The B-side to When Doves Cry is 17 Days, and that is probably my personal favorite B-side hit. I personally love this track because I like the tracks where the bass guitar is really strong, and in the 17 Days you can you can really just hear that bass just really is just great. And the keyboard chords, I like that too, and the melody and the lyrics, it's just a great song. In my opinion, Prince's B-sides are better than some artists like regular songs, A-sides, or whatever you want to say. And I just love let the rain come down, the rain come down, let the rain come down, down. Like, that is my jam. Like, I can play 17 Days is another song of Prince's that I always play all the time. That's a constant. I can't tell you how many Prince playlists I have on my phone and on the computer, but 17 Days is always going to be on there somewhere. And actually, I should credit my husband, Gabriel, for actually introducing the song to me, and because he really liked the song. And I was like, at first, I was just like, yeah, it's okay. But after a while, I just really, really got into it. So thank you, honey, for introducing 17 Days to me. Okay, so moving on, Prince's second number one hit was Let's Go Crazy, which is off the same album as When Doves Cry, Purple Rain. So Let's Go Crazy was released on July 18th, 1984, and it hit number one on the Billboard charts on September 28th of 1984. So I'm taking the rest of the information from the Prince Vault. The basic idea for the song/riff, that according to Prince photographer and friend Alan Bellew, was something he came up with while jamming with Prince in the fall of 1982, and was committed to tape in a session on the 18th of May 1983 at the Kiowa Trail Home Studio in Chanhassen, Minnesota. So this Prince photographer, and his name sounds familiar, he did a book called Before the Rain. He was Prince's photographer during like the Dirty Mind 1999 controversy during that period. And so he's claiming that he helped set the basic tracking and the basic idea for the song Let's Go Crazy. So before, and they put it together to tape. They started taping it at Prince's house at the Kiowa Trail Home Studio that he had. And this was before, of course, Paisley Park was built, because this was in 1983. Before a proper studio recording was made, Prince and the Revolution recorded the song live on the 3rd of August, 1983 at First Avenue in Minneapolis, Minnesota. At that same concert is where I Will Die For You, Baby I'm a Star, and Purple Rain were also recorded for the first time. So the 3rd of August 1983 is a very pivotal day for Prince and the Revolution. They recorded those classic songs for the Purple Rain album, all for a benefit concert. I think it was for the Minneapolis Dance Company, I believe. And they recorded all those songs, like half of the songs for the Purple Rain album at that event. So basic tracking of the version released on Purple Rain took place on the 7th of August, 1983. So just a few days after the benefit concert. 4 days after its live recording, yeah, I just said that, at First Avenue, and a day before Computer Blue at the Warehouse in St. Louis Park, Minnesota. So also the Revolution and Prince were also rehearsing at this warehouse space in St. Louis Park, Minnesota. And if you've seen the videos for like Manic Monday and what is that other song? My mind just went blank. Nothing Compares to You. Those two music videos that the estate put out, that I believe is the warehouse that the Prince Vault is referring to. So they re-recorded it again at the warehouse on the 7th of August, 1983. This version would be edited down for the album. The full version was released on the 12-inch version of the single. So, Let's Go Crazy is another rather unique song in Prince's catalog, and that it opens up with a spoken part, and we all know, the spoken part. So, yes, I'm going to say the whole thing. Okay, here I go. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to get through this thing called life. Electric word, life, and it means forever, and that's a mighty long time, but I'm here to tell you, there's something else. The afterworld. A world of never-ending happiness. You can always see the sun, day or night. So when you call up that shrink in Beverly Hills, you know the one, Dr. Everything Be Alright. Instead of asking how much of your time is left, ask them how much of your time, baby. Because in this life, things are much harder than they are in the afterworld. In this life, you're on your own. If the elevator tries to bring you down, Go crazy. Put your hands up. That. Okay, y'all knew I was going to do that. Okay. And so while Prince is, doing this opening, of course, you hear this wonderful organ playing in the background. So it's almost like Prince is taking you to church. And Prince has always had religious themes in his music from very early on. At the end of the song Controversy, on the Controversy album, he quotes, he says the Lord's Prayer. And so for Prince, though, spirituality and sexuality were intermingled with one another. That's why on albums like Purple Rain, you had a song like I Will Die For You, where he's talking about Jesus. And then you have a song like Darling Nikki, where he's talking about a song full of, lustful sex. So with Let's Go Crazy, he's talking about the elevator bringing you down. And he was actually talking about Satan or the devil, as he talked about in his interview that he did with Chris Rock in 1997. That was another really important interview that he did. We got a lot of information out of him about things like this. And of course, the one thing that bothers me about Prince revealing that the elevator was Satan is, of course, after his death, he was found dead in an elevator. And a lot of people have said, I think very disrespectfully, I might add, that, well, the elevator did bring him down. But the reality is we all have to die, and we all die alone. Even if you die surrounded by your friends and family, you're still going into the afterworld, as Prince called it, alone. So I'm going to eventually do a episode about Prince's death, and I know that it's probably going to be my most controversial episode, and I'm going to take a good probably month or so to do research on it, because I really want it to be as accurate as possible, because there is a lot, and I'm not going to get off on a tangent, I promise, but there's a lot of mysterious circumstances surrounding Prince's death. But I mean, the fact that he died alone in the elevator, yes, that is sad, but people have died in much, much worse ways. So, but like I said, let me stop there because I don't want to go on another tangent. Let me stop myself. I think maybe, okay, let me just move on. Okay, so Let's Go Crazy. So Prince said, like I said, in 1997 interview with Chris Rock, he said, as I wrote it, Let's Go Crazy was about God and the de-elevation of sin. But the problem was that religion was a subject is taboo in pop music. People think that the records they release have to be hip. But what I needed to do is tell the truth. I had to change those words up. But the elevator was Satan. I had to change the words up because you couldn't say God on the radio. And Let's Go Crazy was God to me. It was stay happy, stay focused, and you can beat the elevator. Are we going to let the elevator bring us down? Oh no, let's go. So Prince found a way around the censorship of radio in order to bring his pastor-like wisdom on the role that God can play in our lives if we accept him, So now that Let's Go Crazy is more than just a party song. We see that. It's more about God's triumph over the devil. Now, the B-side of Let's Go Crazy is another fan favorite, Erotic City. Now, when I first heard Erotic City, I was a little shocked and a little turned off. And if I'm being honest, and it's not because I'm a prude when it comes to hearing explicit songs about sex, but because I just was like, wow, okay, Prince, And then when I found out that Sheila E. did not want to say the F word, so Prince is singing the F word and Sheila is saying, we can funk until the dawn. I mean, it's a very literal song about sex that supposedly he wrote after being inspired after going to a Parliament Funkadelic concert. And Erotic City does have a funky beat in the same vein as P-Funk. So this is the first song where we hear Camille, which was basically this character that Prince would create for his more funk-driven songs. So it was Prince with his a voice sped up on the track. And so other Camille tracks that would come later are If I Were Your Girlfriend, Housequake, and Rock Hard in a Funky Place. But we're going to talk about Camille at a later date. So moving on. So the third #1 Prince single was the song Kiss off of Prince's 8th studio album Parade. So how Kiss came into existence as a song has an interesting backstory. But before we get into that, let me give you the stats on it. It was released on February 5th, 1986, and it hit the #1 spot on the Billboard Hot 100 on April 5th, 1986, so exactly 2 months later. Kiss would be the lead single for Prince's album Parade. So Kiss initially started off as a rough demo that Prince did of an acoustic guitar and vocals that he gave to engineer David Z, which was the brother of Revolution drummer Bobby Z and Revolution bass player Brown Mark for Brown Mark's group Maserati. So the story goes that Prince and Maserati were both recording at the studio Sunset Sound in Los Angeles at the end of April in 1985, April 27th to be exact, April 27th and April 28th. According to the Prince Vault, thePrinceVault.com does a really good job of summarizing how Kiss was created. So I'm going to quote what they say, and I'm going to add some quotes from the book Prince and the Parade and Sign of the Times era studio sessions by Dwayne Tudall. So this is what the PrinceVault.com says. It says, basic tracking took place on the 28th of April, 1985 at Sunset Sound in Hollywood, California, 4 days after Holly Rock, the same day as All My Dreams. The song was recorded initially by Prince as an acoustic blues-style demo for Maserati, who were working in the studio next to Prince with David Z. Rifkin and Brown Mark. Prince returned the following morning and heard the version that Maserati had recorded, which had transformed the song into a funk number. Prince instantly reclaimed the song and worked on it further. He omitted a bass guitar part and the guitar solo and added the signature lick. Sir Casey Terry's vocals were also replaced with his own in a higher octave, but otherwise kept the original recording. While David Z. Rifkin is credited with the track's arrangement, therefore he is more accurately an uncredited producer on the track. The song was included as the 9th track on the first configuration of the album compiled on the 1st of May, 1985. So, once again, Prince decided that lightning could strike again and took out the bass line of the song, just like he did for When Doves Cry just 2 years prior. So Prince gave this rough demo to David Z and Brown Mark, and he tells them, here, go finish this off. So David Z says, Prince gave us this straight version with just one verse and an acoustic guitar, voice, and no rhythm. Let me read that again. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm getting tongue-tied. David Z says, Prince gave us this straight version with just one verse and an acoustic guitar, voice, and no rhythm. The song sounded like something Stephen Steele might have done. I didn't know what to do with it, and neither did the group. I'm not sure who Stephen Steele is. I'm assuming he's like a folk artist or something. So Brown Mark and David Z eventually started to work on the track. Brown Mark said, we went into the studio and came up with a funky beat with a funky bass line, the same bass line that Prince would later remove. He would also remove a guitar solo and add his own guitar riff once he took the song back. So David Z and Brown Mark worked on the song all day and all night on Saturday, April 27th, 1986. So the next day, on Sunday, April 28th, Prince comes back into Sunset Sound early the next morning. And now I'm going to read about a page and a half of what was written in the book, Prince and the Parade and Sign of the Times era studio sessions, about what went down the next morning when Prince came in. So Coke Johnson, who is another engineer who worked there, he says, Coke Johnson remembers what happened when Prince arrived early for today's session and asked to hear Kiss. We played it for Prince, who went ballistic, went out to the basketball court playing it loud on the ghetto blaster. He pretty much said, this is too good for Maserati. It pissed us off as we had been up all night working on it. Hold on, y'all. I gotta get me something to drink. Okay. Prince took the tape back into Studio 3 and began making his own changes. He quickly eliminated Brown Mark's bass. It fills up the bottom so much you really don't miss the bass, especially if only you use it on the first downbeat, according to David Z. So David Z is talking about some engineering, lingo. And he added James Brown, Papa's Got a Brand New Bag style ES4 guitar chord. So Prince added that, as well as his vocals, which he recorded an octave higher than Terry's. And Terry was a member of Maserati, their singer. So David Z asked him what was going on, and Prince confirmed his earlier position on the song. He said to me, "This is too good for you guys. I'm taking it back." The final result of the song was not what he had expected. Tony details how Prince approached them. He said, "I like the cut you did last night. I want to use it. Of course you guys will get paid for it." And we said, "Sure." So this is Tony, the singer from Maserati, talking. Because we were flattered that Prince would even put something up that, we did on his record. All the vocal work was done. All the music was laid in already, explains Brown Mark. The only thing that Prince put in was his little makes guitar sound like da 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 da. He put that in. He put his signature on it, which really just changed the song dramatically. With his high-pitched voice, it really added a whole different feel to this thing, because Maserati, they didn't sing as high like Prince. They sang it more in their natural voices, and so it was a little different. But the background, everything is all the same when we did it. We were playing ping pong at Sunset Sound, and hey, that's the song we did last night. So this is Terry talking again. But Prince's voice was on it. He's quick. It took Prince less than an hour to do the guitar and his vocals on the song. Remember, Tony Christian. Now, Tony Christian is another member of Maserati. I was credited on background vocals, and I got a gold record and everything, but I guess I was really naive and new to the business. In this business, you could easily get screwed out of a couple of million. He didn't ask anybody, according to David Z. Of course, to him, it was his song. He promised all kind of stuff to us to make this thing happen, but in a way, he didn't consider anyone's reactions. But on the other hand, how he did it was fine, probably better than what Maserati could have done. I actually prefer his version. So this is David Z talking, the engineer. I like the cool guitar part and all, and he definitely put his thing on it. No question about it. It wasn't like, hey, that was our hit. It wasn't that kind of thing. Maybe Maserati felt that way. I was a producer, so what did I care? Maybe we would have had a big hit with it, maybe not. It was so drastically different from Prince's version, and his delivery was great. So David Z didn't seem to have an issue with Prince taking Kiss back. But I definitely think that Brown Mark and the members of Maserati kind of felt kind of screwed over and felt some type of way about it. And they probably had, every right to feel that way. So to me, Kiss was actually created by the village of Brown Mark, David Z, Maserati, and Prince. So do I think he should have given Brown Mark and David Z more co-writing and co-producing credits? Yes, I think so. But Prince was Prince, and what he wanted, he got, for better or worse. So could our guy be an asshole at times? Absolutely. Was this one of those times? Probably. The B-side was Love or Money, which would play in the movie Under the Cherry Moon. So moving on to Prince's fourth #1 single was Batdance from the album Batman for the soundtrack for the 1989 Tim Burton movie Batman. Batdance was the 9th and final track added to the Batman album. It was released on June 9th, 1989 and hit the top spot on the Billboard charts on August 5th, 1989. Now, Batman, as you know, Batdance, as I talked about in the very first episode of the podcast, is a very reminiscent song for me because that was my introduction to Prince. But Batdance was actually a last-minute replacement for the album. It replaced the song Dance with the Devil, which Prince thought was a little too dark. And I have listen to Dance with the Devil, and it is kind of a dark song. He actually makes up another character called Spooky Electric to do that song. So I don't know if it's just because Prince is a Gemini, but he comes up with all these different characters like Gemini, Spooky Electric, Camille. So that's just kind of, I guess a unique thing about Prince is he likes to play all these different characters. Okay, but I'm going to read something, of course, from the Prince Vault. The song contains samples from The Future, Electric Chair, which is a great song too. Actually, I like just about every song on the Batman album, really. 200 Balloons and We Got the Power. The latter was briefly considered for the album but left unreleased. Prince would later make regular use of mentioning or sampling tracks from an album within one of the album's final tracks. Of note, remixes of Batdance also contain samples from Rave Unto the Joy Fantastic, which he was actually working on before he started the Batman project. He was working on Raven to the Joy of Fantastic, and we know that wouldn't come out until 1999, but before he found out about Batman, he was actually working on that. And then Batman planned for the Batman album and replaced by Party Man. The song was only released in 1999, so what I just said. The vocals on the album are credited to a character from the movie, as if Prince is singing on their behalf. The lines on, because you know, when you hear Batdance, you hear like Jack Nicholson and Michael Keaton and Kim Basinger, you know. But of course, you know, Prince came up with this half Batman, half Joker character named Gemini. And the lines are attributed to him, as well as a guy named Matthew Larson. And he was like a guy who was just on the set. He was like a crew member. And I think he was like I think he was a guitar tech maybe. But he discussed the recording of his parts in an article published in 2022. So he said, he just said that this is what Prince told him. He said, "You're going to do something. I want you to scream as loud as you can." He threw me a little yellow pad of paper, and it wasn't until we got into the queue that I got to see what it was. And that was for Batdance. "Get the fuck up" was the original. And then the other one was, "Oh, damn it, don't stop the music. Oh, you son of a bitch." You know, that part in Batdance at the very end before he blows himself up in the video. So apparently Matthew Larson both did those, but then because they had to change "Get the fuck up" to "Get the funk up" because, you know, it wasn't, you know, it wasn't appropriate, because, you know, Batman was, you know, supposed to be like a family, you know, family film. So he had to go back and change it to "Get the funk up." And then there are two lines attributed to Prince. "Hey, Ducky, let me stick the 7-inch in the computer." And I don't really even know what that means, but knowing Prince, it sounds kind of like a sexual innuendo maybe. And then "Stop." So those two lines are attributed to Prince himself at the very end of the song. But the latter is actually a sample from the film in which Batman says this to bring the Batmobile to a halt. So actually it wasn't Prince's voice, it was actually Michael Keaton's voice that said "stop," but, you know, it was just Prince mimicking it. So for those of you that haven't listened, you know, for my first episode, like, once again, I already talked about that. I'm looking at my script, y'all. But it is very sentimental. It was the very first song that I ever heard from Prince. And at the time, like I said, I didn't know who Prince was, but that song was just jamming. And like I said, we were literally out on the playground. "Ooh yeah, ooh yeah, I wanna bust that body. Ooh yeah, ooh yeah, I wanna bust that body right." I'm just like, you know, 5 years old. We had no idea what we were singing. And had my mother, you know, or some adult really been paying attention to what we were singing, we probably would have been in trouble. But anyway, moving on. So the B-side was 200 Balloons. 200 Balloons. I like that song too. That was the B-side to Batdance. So last but not least, the final single, number one single by Prince, was the song "Cream" from the Diamonds and Pearls album, Prince's 13th studio album. It was released on September 9th, 1991, and it hit the number one spot just about 3 weeks later on the Billboard charts on September 28th, 1991. So Cream was the second single from Diamonds and Pearls after Get Off. So Prince would claim on the Musicology tour in 2004 that he wrote Cream while looking in the mirror. And when I first heard Cream on the radio, that was the first song that I knew who Prince was, that he was actually singing it. Because once again, in my first episode, I say that, you know, I first heard Cream on the radio, and my dad was the one who told me, yeah, that's Prince. And I was like, oh, okay, I like the song. And I also love the song Diamonds and Pearls as well, the title track from that album. So it also has, you know, sentimental value to me as well. The B-side was Horny Pony. So that also had a dance to go with it, I think. And once again, I was really too young to remember all that. So for those of you that were old enough to remember, I might post something about that on the Facebook page. And please comment. Don't be scared. I've had the Facebook page for a little while and not too many people comment. So But that's okay. I understand if you want to be shy, but don't be shy, because I'm really interested in the dance. I'm gonna have to look that up, because apparently he got inspired to do the horny pony dance. I don't know if this is true or not, but you remember the Humpty Dump dance? Shock G, rest in peace. He supposedly got inspired to do that from the do the Humpty Hump. Hey, do the Humpty Hump. So he kind of did like a horny pony dance, and kind of, in a not really a response to that, but kind of similar to the Humpty dance. So, okay. So, let's see what else. Okay, so now let's move on, since we talked about the 5 number 1 hit songs. So once again, the first one was When Doves Cry, Let's Go Crazy, Kiss, Batdance, and number 5 was Cream. So now, Purple Family, let's talk about Prince's second self-titled album, Prince. So let me give you the stats. Prince was released on October 19th, 1979, and the album sessions took place from late April to the 13th of June, 1979 at Alpha Studios in Burbank, California. Some overdubs and mixing initially took place at Hollywood Sound Recorders, Los Angeles, in late May and early June. However, allegedly, when the cost of it started to be an issue, because like I said, once again, he didn't have a lot of money because he had already spent most of it on For You. So when cost started to become an issue, his manager, Perry Jones, got a 16-track Soundcraft Series 200B board and had it shipped to Prince's home on North Am Drive in Orono, Minnesota, where the album was mixed further. I Want to Be Your Lover and I Feel For You were initially written for Patrice Rushen, who was recording her 5th album, Pizzazz, at the same time, and released only 4 days after Prince's album. As with his first album, Prince played all the instruments on all tracks. Bobby Z and Andre Simone were listed in the credits as Heaven Sent Helpers, leading to some question of their involvement, and Prince has confirmed that Andre Simone did add some vocal harmony to Why You Want to Treat Me So Bad. So, for the promotion, the album produced 5 singles. I Want to Be Your Lover, which preceded the album, Why You Want to Treat Me So Bad, Still Waiting, and Sexy Dancer, and Bambi. So Prince, he would actually tour for this album, and he started a tour in November and December 1979, going into February of 1980, usually playing every song on the album. And the album reached number 22 on the U.S. Billboard Top LPs and Tapes, and number 3 on the Billboard Soul chart. So it did pretty good. It did better. It did much better than For You did. So to conclude tonight's episode, I'm going to give my personal review of the album. So when I first heard the album, I was only familiar with the song I Want to Be Your Lover, which I really liked. But I have since heard this album several times, and I have been listening to it in my car all week in preparation for this episode. So my favorite tracks are I Want to Be Your Lover, Why You Want to Treat Me So Bad, and Bambi. So I really like the rock and roll tracks on this album. I particularly like the guitar solo at the end of Why You Want to Treat Me So Bad. I mean, that's great. And of course, Bambi throughout. I mean, he was just really playing the hell out of that guitar in both of those tracks. Now, normally I'm not really into rock music like that, but for Prince, when he puts his flair on it and he plays his rock music, I don't know why, but I just seem to like it better. Because I also like his rock song that's on the Gold album, Endorphin Machine. Dun, 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 dun. I love it. I mean, and I also like a lot of the rock songs that are on Chaos and Disorder as well. So, like I said, I'm not into rock music, but with Prince, I really like his rock stuff. And I don't know what it is. He can do wonders with that guitar. I mean, he can really make it sing like it's an actual person doing the vocals. Like, Prince is really good about conveying the mood of the song with his guitar solos. One of my favorite guitar solos is actually Purple Rain, because to me that solo was perfect for that song. I mean, flawless. Like, I mean, it just really just goes so perfectly with the mood of the song. But okay, let me stop digressing. Okay, so the other songs, like I Feel For You, which we know Shaka Khan would cover in 1984. And that's probably my favorite Prince cover because it is so good. And when we're dancing close to slow, sexy dancer, still waiting, with you, and it's going to get lonely. I think they all work together very well. They bring a cohesiveness to the album that is not like anything else. You know, a lot of his other albums don't have that cohesiveness, but Prince does. So he had a great mixture of rock, R&B slow jams, and up-tempo funk. So with this album, I think that Prince was on a mission, like I said in the beginning of the episode, to kind of redeem himself and prove to himself and to Warner Brothers that he was in fact a hit maker, that he wasn't going to be some one album or one hit wonder. He was in this for the long haul because he wanted to be a career musician. So he knew that he was going to have to work very, very hard, harder than he's probably ever worked, and he did that. So the sky was the limit at this point in Prince's career. He was well on his way to writing and producing more and more hit songs and would continue to grow as a band leader as well. Prince's band was able to go on a brief tour, like I said, for the Prince's album, before joining up with Rick James's tour as the opening act for the Fire It Up tour in the spring of 1980. But I'm going to talk more about that on the next episode. That's going to be interesting because Rick Jones did a memoir before he passed away in 2004, and he talked a lot about this particular tour. So stay tuned for that. But speaking of which, I'll be taking, after this episode, I'm going to be taking a 2-week hiatus in order to give myself a little break, a little respite, and also to allow people to catch up that might have not had a chance to listen to all the episodes that have been out. So when I come back in 2 weeks, I'll be starting episode 6, in which we'll be reviewing Prince's third album, Dirty Mind, and talking about Prince's Dirty Mind and his view on sex and sexuality during this time period. Okay? So with that being said, I hope everyone has a wonderful, peaceful weekend. Peace and be wild, and may you live to see the dawn. Bye.